I'd like to begin my presentation by introducing to you Mitacs. And we are a national organization that's funded through funded through ISAT at federal government and also all the provinces to support innovation and growth in Canada. Mitacs was founded in 1999 as an NCE ourselves, supporting math and the information technologies. But we pivoted in 7 years later to support all disciplines and support the growth both here in Canada and also furthering the innovation from Canada internationally. Right now, we are working with 67 post-secondary partners at universities and many more in the college space. So far, we have supported more than 35,000 research projects with all disciplines, and all our staff, more than 200 staff, are across the country. Before the pandemic, we were mostly located in the major hubs, but now with the remote working, everybody is working from home. So there are quite a few objectives of our programs and our operations. And overall, really is to support the innovation through collaborative research. And I wanted to highlight a few that we do support all disciplines, especially for the trainees at NMIN, knowing that your background and also your research could be interdisciplinary. This could be a plus for you. As well, we want to stimulate international research collaborations. Despite that we are now all grounded because of the pandemic, our international programs are still being offered, and if you still have international research collaboration going on, please feel free to ask me and also my team. So I would love to dive into 2 programs out of the 3 outlined here, Accelerate and Elevate. And like I mentioned for Global Link, for the international exchange, do connect with my team for more details. And I want to first start with Accelerate, which is the bread and butter program that we offer. And as Diana mentioned, there are 430 internship units set aside for the NMIN trainees to be able to take advantage of and access throughout the training. And for Accelerate, it is a very interesting program that is very modular and scalable. So for all of you who are from all over the Canada, because of the nature of Mitacs as a national organization, you can participate in Accelerate with either companies, whether it's large or small, or not-for-profit locally in your region, or from across the country, coast to coast. And also, you can also participate in Accelerate with international companies from our partner countries. Accelerate is not a competition, and we do a peer review for a gatekeeping reasons. It's a yes/no answer, but overall, more than 95% of the application has been successful. So really, you would get hands-on assistance from the business development team while you're developing your application. So by the time the application is sent out to a peer review, it is likely to be approved either immediately or after a revision request. We try to keep the application process really nimble and simple. Decisions are usually made within 6 to 8 weeks for simple projects. But of course, if you are having a fairly large collaboration past the $1 million mark, there will be extra 2 weeks needed for extra due diligence. And that brought me to another highlight of the program is this program can fund from $15,000 per 4 months to multi-million, depending on the project itself. And knowing that in NMIN trainee group, there are both domestic and foreign students, you are both eligible for the for participation in Accelerate program. And also, whilst Accelerate is a standalone funding program, we do want to build Accelerate as a platform in conjunction with other funding programs to make it easier for you when you are in the collaborative research. to minimize your time spending on funding applications and to minimize the paperwork you have to deal with. So NMIN and Mitacs partnership is a great example. Even during COVID-19, we quickly launched a call for proposal to support research in COVID-19 space, specific research. One application to Mitacs were able to secure funding both from Accelerate Program and NMIN Top Up to support COVID-19 research. And likewise, we also have partnership with NSERC, Innovate BC, and Ocean Supercluster to be able to, again, provide one application from the participants to secure multiple funding. So if you are thinking about building up a large consortium partner with strategic partners, Accelerate can be a ready-made platform for you to be able to support the stipend of the trainees and also other research expenses while not impacting or detracting from you from other fundings. And when I joined Mitacs in 2014, we were doing pretty well, and we delivered about 3,000 internships that year. But since then, it's been on a hockey stick increase for the program delivery and the program uptake. As you can tell, last year we supported more than 11,000 Accelerate internships. And this year in April, we received additional 40 million from the federal government to provide additional work integrated learning opportunities. So we are expecting another year of growth. And that also means Accelerate has been getting more branding opportunities in the communities of industry and not-for-profit. So as trainees, if you are working with your industry partner, this likely would be something they're already heard of, despite not being super familiar. That would help you to have a better success rate in your outreach to industry partners. And I want to dive a little deeper in Accelerate in the program details. And again, you are more than welcome to have follow-up questions after the presentation. For Accelerate, as I mentioned, it's quite modular and scalable. Typically, we ask each internship unit is made up by 4 to 6 months, one student or a postdoc, one company or not-for-profit as a module on the project. And this module or this unit can then be used as Lego blocks to build up a larger project. It could be different students, different industry partners, different length of time, and different disciplines with trainees from different universities. Just as different Lego blocks can build up different structure, Accelerate could be used to build up your projects for multi-year and multi-university engagement. And because of the training nature of Accelerate and also the talent development piece of Accelerate, we would love the trainee who is supported by the funding spends a minimum time of 25% of the total project at each site, either from your academic environment or the partner organization. So you get the best from both worlds while you are still doing your study and furthering your research. 25% is 50% of time split is recommended, but of course, depending on your projects, you might have to spend more time at one site than the other. And in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, everybody is working from home while they can. Mitacs has opened up the requirement to allow virtual interactions. And I hope this could be a really pivotal moment for a lot of you here. Especially now that we cannot easily conduct our international travel, this Accelerate program can still support you if your partner company or partner not-for-profit partner company is overseas. And knowing the nature of grad studies, multi-year project is not unusual for all of us. So Accelerate is keeping that in mind to be able to support you throughout your study. So if you are a master student, Accelerate can support you for up to 2 years, and PhD student for 4 years, and as a postdoc, you will be able to access funding for 3 years. And if you are changing degree program between master and PhDs, the previous used units would only be counted towards your previous degree. For example, if you are doing a 1-year master and then transitioning into 4-year PhD program, Accelerate can support all 5 years because of the change of degrees. So be able to maximize the Accelerate funding length would help you throughout your grad studies. And also, if you have a defense coming up between your PhD and postdoc, you can always take advantage of the flexibility from Accelerate to start your project while you are finishing up your thesis and easily transition into postdoc with no lagging and with no gap between funding. In terms of the funding level, Mitacs provides matching funds to support your collaboration with companies and not-for-profits. Each 7.5K investment is leveraged into 15,000 working budget going towards your stipend and also operational costs. And remember, this is a building block, which means 15 can be timed by 4, by 8, depending on your degree level. And again, to encourage companies to invest in longer term, larger projects for to be able to get a better success in the collaboration, Mitacs provide incentives by increasing the contribution to 55% in a project if the project is longer and larger. And again, if this is a team-based approach, you can have multiple universities on the same portfolio as well. And just as of today, Mitacs launched another industrial postdoc fellowship call for proposal, where the partner contribution is brought down a little further to 25,000 per year, and Mitacs provides additional funding to make it 55,000 per year to support a postdoc fellow. It could be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and the call will close end of next month. Before going into Elevate, I do want to mention that Accelerate is so flexible that we wanted to support the trainee entrepreneurs as well. Given the nature of NMIN, a lot of you would have a commercialization possibility with your research. So if you are to start up your company from the university incubator, either in collaboration with your supervisor or with your fellow trainees, Accelerate could be a way to support you as the trainee working in your own startup, matching the funds from your own startup as well. So for that, I would encourage you to speak with a business development specialist at your university if you are considering starting up your own firm or own venture. And likewise, once you do have that venture up and running, Mitacs Entrepreneur International would be able to provide up to 5,000 travel grants to support your business development activities or partnership activities overseas to grow your startup. And this year, we also launched a business strategy internship, so to complement Accelerate. And as trainees from NMIN, you are always involved in R&D activities where Accelerate could be a great channel and avenue to support your training. Business strategy internship is really to add value on the business side. So either your venture or the companies you are working with right now are facing the changes posed by COVID-19. The business strategy internship can place business students into those companies to help them come up with new strategies, either in marketing, in HR, in sales, or even social science and more, to be able to adapt to the new reality. What's not included in the slide, which is really a flexibility that we got this year, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and I think it's quite relevant to the NMIN trainees, is that Accelerate now also open up to hospitals, where hospital could be the partner organization for you to be a new environment to do research for the partnership as well. And I wanted to highlight that because I want to quickly mention that because it's only open till end of this fiscal, unless we hear otherwise from our government funders. And after Accelerate, I do want to spend a couple more minutes to talk about Elevate. Elevate is also having a couple proposal opened today, which will open till the new year to provide postdoc fellow 2-year fellowship opportunities. So you might have noticed the funding level is very similar to what's being offered by industrial postdoc fellowship, with slightly more contribution from the partner organization to cover more of the research expenses. And very different from Accelerate, Elevate is a competition because we want the best and brightest postdoc fellows to form a cohort to work with each other for the 2 years. And that means in addition to the funding that we are providing, there will be a 2-year training program customized for the Elevate fellows, both on the professional development side and also, especially for the 2nd year, would be catered towards the project you are working on to develop a commercialization go-to-market plan. And this call is open till January. With that, I'd love to thank you for your attention, and thanks to our funding partners, both the federal government and also the provincial governments. And if you have any questions, please feel free.
Because I've got a question for Sherry to kick off. So Sherry, you mentioned with the Accelerate program that that program, in terms of the hospital as a partner, that opportunity is only available until the end of the fiscal year. So just to clarify, is the fiscal year for Mitacs the same as the NC fiscal year, i.e. March 31st, 2021? Is that the date?
That is a good question. Yes, that is the date.
Okay, perfect. So if anyone's interested in that opportunity, it is a really exciting opportunity that it's opened up to hospitals, and there's so much clinical research going on now. And if anyone has a project that could be tweaked even slightly towards anything relevant to COVID-19, I think that there's a huge opportunity here to work with hospitals and tap into some of the funding that NMIN and Mitacs have set aside for the nanomedicines field, because there is so much potential to apply our body of knowledge and our expertise to move forward towards solutions to this this global pandemic. So thank you for raising that opportunity for us, and we're really happy that that's opened up for hospitals as partners. So Sherry, we're a very entrepreneurial network of centers of excellence, and so not surprisingly, my next question is about the Accelerate Entrepreneur Program. So we have some latent or emerging new companies within the network, and when new companies form, oftentimes it's really the engine of the new company is really the postdoctoral fellow or a PhD or a student or team of students, but often the incorporator of the company is the principal investigator. So when you talk about if you start your own startup company, who's eligible to apply? Does the postdoctoral fellow or the PhD student need to be the company owner or listed somehow on the company owner? Or what happens if the professor has actually started the company but the students are running it? How do you determine who's eligible for those entrepreneurship grants?
That's a great question as well, and we actually encountered a lot of scenarios, as Diana you just mentioned. The principal investigator or a few professors who have been collaborators on the technology started the company, where the postdoctoral fellows or PhD students furthering the technology in the company. Or sometimes it's the postdoctoral fellow co-found the company with the with the PI, and actually being the driving force to run the company beyond the research and development. So definitely different scenarios have come up. So a few things, if the postdoctoral fellow or the PhD student are not listed as co-founders of the companies, we can just use the normal or ordinary Accelerate program, having the company funded by the professors to be the partner organization, and having the trainees to be the Accelerate interns. That is always available. And the reason for the standalone entrepreneur, Accelerate entrepreneur, is because when the trainees are also co-founders, there is a conflict of interest coming from being both the company owner and working their own company. We have that standalone so that we to support the student or trainee entrepreneurs to be able to continue to further their own technologies. So it's added flexibility rather than a additional requirement.
Okay, that's great. So, so for all those of you who are involved in any startup companies of your professors, I think you should go back and talk to them about this, because it seems like it is an opportunity for you to get some extra funding into the company for probably some things that you're already doing. And if you're thinking of starting a company, then you should talk to Sherry about how you can access the entrepreneurship funding directly. So that's a very timely innovation for us. So Marshall, any questions from the participants?
Yes, at this point we have quite a number, raised hands and written questions. So to start with the first, we have a raised hand by Sams Sadat. Sams, if you're there, I'm going to unmute you, and you'll have to unmute yourself in order to speak, but go ahead.
Yeah. Are you hearing me?
We can hear you.
I have a question to Sherry. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Let's say the question, like some students, they are on CIHR or NSERC. They have the limitations, like they are limited to be enrolled in the university, and they are not allowed to do any internship or other doing some TA or other extra duty while they are on NSERC or CIHR. So is it possible for the CIHR or NSERC students, like those funded students, to apply for Mitacs Accelerate or other options you might have? Thank you.
Yeah, so the question is if the students are on other fellowships provided by additional funders, whether they are eligible to apply for Mitacs programs. The short answer is yes. We have the programs open to all, but at the same time, because of the internship programs or sometimes the travel funding from global link programs are requiring the trainees to spend full time, treat the project as a full-time project. It creates challenges for the trainees to work on both ends at the same time. And also the trainees are, I think with your own funding or fellowship requirement, you are obligated to disclose additional funding that you might receive from Mitacs to your original funder. So that's something you want to be able to bring back up early on and engage with your original funder early on to get the permission from them.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to some written questions. And I apologize if I mispronounce the names of the people who wrote these questions, but Karat Al-Ain has asked if we can share a link to the Elevate program, so we can send that out after the webinar. Adele Kavari has two brief questions. One is, can we apply for both Elevate and Accelerate? And the second is, what is the deadline for Elevate?
So yes, you can apply for it Accelerate and Elevate, you might have noticed that Accelerate has a 3-year funding length for a postdoc, and Elevate is a 2-year fellowship. What has happened is, because of the nature of Accelerate having rolling deadlines or rolling applications, especially when it's a newer partnership that you've built with your partner organization, you want to start with Accelerate so that you can kickstart your collaboration as soon as possible. And while you are working out with R&D and also forming the partnership, forming the relationship a little further, when the Elevate call is opened up, you can apply for Elevate at that moment. So there would be no gap in terms of funding flow, and you would be able to take advantage of both programs. One thing of note is the 3-year limit of funding is across the board. So if you are to use Accelerate for a year, you can still use Elevate for 2 years. But if you have already used Accelerate for 2 years as your postdoc funding, on exceptional cases, you will be able to use it as 1-year Elevate, but after 3 years of Accelerate, you won't be able to be eligible for Elevate.
Okay, thank you.
In terms of the deadline, I need to double check because I'm very hesitant in giving out a specific date. It is mid-January, but definitely we can share a link to the Elevate website.
Very good, thanks. Leah Greystone has raised her hand to ask a question as well. Leah, I'm going to unmute you. You'll have to do the same for yourself, and go ahead.
Great, thank you very much, Marshall, and thank you, Sherry, for your presentation. I was curious if you knew why there was such a jump in the internship numbers between the 2017-18 year and 2018-19.
18-19. If I may go back to the slide. So if we are referring to the Accelerate numbers, I believe, of course, could be memory doesn't serve, right? I believe that year was a special year where one of our provincial funders was lagging behind in providing the provincial funding. That means in one of the large provinces, we had to limit the numbers we were able to support in terms of the Accelerate internships. But I just wanted to take a look at the numbers and to make sure. Yeah. Oh, sorry, you're talking about, not talking about job, talking about the jump.
Yes, sorry, it almost doubled, so I was curious to see that.
Yeah, I think we received additional funding that year from the federal government. Yeah, we did receive a doubling of our funding in that year from our federal government. And actually, even right now, we don't think we have tapped out all the work integrated learning opportunities for the trainees. So the market is still quite huge. After 20 years in operation, Mitacs is still not known by all the partner organizations, especially if you step outside the metropolitan areas. Mitacs is still not a household name. So there's definitely a huge need, especially again in the new age that we are in for innovation, and where there's also increasing expertise provided by the trainees from the post-secondary institutions. So the market needs was never a issue limiting factor. And in 2018, 2019, we did receive additional funding from the federal government to be able to deliver further. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, next we have a comment and a question from Kai Yi Grace Choi, who thanks you for the great presentation and asks, or says, I was wondering for the eligibility for postdocs in all the programs. Granting agencies often limit the eligibility based on the years since the individual has graduated. Does Mitacs have such a limit?
So for the postdoc trainees, remembering both Accelerate and Elevate are training programs to be able to help early careers postdoc to step into industry and get feel from both sides, keeping the doors open at academia and trying out industry. So we do prefer the trainees to be within 5 years of receiving their PhD. That being said, we know life happens. You might have had a baby, so you had to take parental leave, or decided to serve the military, or sometimes, again, life happens, you have to take care of a family member. So we did take that into consideration as well. So if you had any gaps during the 5 years or in the past years, we can also account for those gaps to extend the 5-year limit as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Next question comes from Azita Haddadi, who asks, for this opportunity on COVID projects with hospitals, do you still need an industry partner or just NMIN and Mitacs would suffice?
The industry partner here will be the hospital.
Well, that was an easy answer. Next, a question from Quan Lee, who asks, for Accelerate, each module is from 4 to 6 months. If we would like to take additional modules, should we apply again or not? And what is the requirement for this funding? And the partner organization should be an industry company? I can repeat that if it was too complex. Go ahead.
Maybe I'll answer the second half and then come back to the first half. So for the requirement of the partner organization, if they are Canadian, they could be for-profit businesses, no matter what the size is. Not-for-profit organizations who don't receive the majority of their funding from federal sources, hospitals as of right now, municipalities as of right now. If they are international from the partner countries that we have listed on our website, the usual suspects, UK, US, EU, India, China, Brazil, and more, they need to be for-profit companies. And of course, when it involves international companies, we always want to make sure the benefits to Canada, given the nature of the funding Mitacs is providing. In terms of the different modules, you can definitely apply for one to start with, again, as a tryout to build relationships for both parties. But also, if you have decided from early on, this is a 1-year project, and this is something you wanted to consider long-term, it's just you're not sure whether there will be a continuation after the first 4 to 6 months. Because of, again, the nature of the setup for project, you can always apply for 3 modules at first and make it really clear in the proposal that at the 4 months time point or each 4 month time point, there will be an evaluation from all parties to decide whether or not continue the funding. So that does offer flexibility for you not to put in the same proposal again every 4 months, and also give everybody a chance to check in with each other. That being said, my team are always happy to have this conversation with you alongside with your partner organization to outline the expectations when writing a proposal and forming the partnership.
Okay, very good, thank you. Another question from Quan Lee is, what is the timeline for the application to the Accelerate program, or is it any time of year?
It's any time of year. It's open for applications all year long. There is a peer review process. Once the application is submitted, as I mentioned, it will be 6 to 8 weeks to hear back from about the funding decision.
Okay, another question from Karat Al-Ain, who asks, if a person is not a Canadian citizen or permanent resident of Canada, are they eligible for the Elevate program?
The short answer is yes. The longer answer is as long as you are registered as a full-time postdoc at a Canadian institution. And that could be universities or colleges.
Okay, thank you. Another question from Tanis Harrison, who writes, I work with a university in an NSERC-funded project that helps students find internships as part of their program. Are we able to work with the Accelerate program to help the students find internships, or do the students need to access Accelerate independently of our program?
If I may guess, I think you are part of the CREATE program at the university, and we actually have lots of partnerships with different CREATE groups, where NSERC funding would cover certain portion of the experiential learning, and Accelerate would cover the same cohort in addition to what they already being funded by NSERC. And you might, just as academics, you will know that the same topics cannot be funded twice, and the same portion of work cannot be funded twice. But the extension of the continuation of the internship could definitely be funded by Mitacs.
Okay, very good, thanks. Other than some expressions of thanks from people who've asked questions, there are no other written questions and no other raised hands at the moment.
Well, thanks, Marshall. So Sherry, I have a question for you. If you were to be able to stand in front of this whole room and tell the students what the top 3 to 5 value-added benefits and things that they will get out of participating in this kind of program, based on the reviews and the experiences that others have had, what would you say those top 3 to 5 things that people will walk away with in terms of contacts or experience or knowledge that they wouldn't have had if they didn't participate in this program in some form or another?
Thank you for the question, Diane. I can talk about the benefits all day. And just to share with the group that I was an Accelerate intern when I was doing my PhD at the final year. So from my personal point of view, participating in that program, that I did build up new contacts, and even the process of finding a partner actually helped me a lot to be able to feel comfortable speaking out about my research in a way that's more commercialization facing. So that has been really helpful as well. And throughout the internship, I were able to work with a company from the business side to see different priorities that we might not see as academics focusing on R&D at the university alone. So if I were to summarize the benefits, one is the network or networking, if you will. 2 is seeing things from a different lens, getting to know the business environment. And the 3rd one is, because of the design of the program, you are still keeping both doors open. So you still have a foot in academia. So it's a very low risk trial for you to decide on your future career.
And I hope we have some partner organizations listening into this session today. And so if you had to raise with the partners, what are the top 3 to 5 benefits for them to participate in this program and take a student in on an Accelerate or an Elevate internship program? What would those features be?
Yeah, so the number 1 is talent, and talent. This is a great way to try out the talent and building up a talent pipeline. The second one is to be able to get exposed to a new way of thinking and to get to see the cutting edge research that's happening at the institutions. And the third one is, again, lowering the risk. We are co-investing with you, so you don't have to try out everything all on your own dollars.
I think that's very appealing for them. All of the above are very appealing. So Marshall, how much time do we have left?
14 minutes to 2:30.
Okay. So are there any other questions or hands raised?
There presently are not, no.
All right. Well, Sherry, I'll give you a chance to wrap up in terms of, if you leave the participants today with any sort of key message and an invitation maybe to get back in touch with you or your colleagues, what would you advise them to do in terms of next steps following today's webinar?
Yeah, first, thank you all for participating in the webinar, taking an hour out of your busy day. And I wish we could gather in person, but now we have a broader reach throughout the country without the hassle of travel, which is also really great. And I would love to encourage you all to really think about the partnerships you could build, think about the opportunities to apply your skills, not only the topics, but really the skills in the real world. And if you have any questions, my contact info is listed in the presentation, which will be shared. Get in touch with me and I'll put you in touch with my team members on the ground with you at the same location, so you can have a better conversation with them as well. And please do not be afraid to reach out. Having a conversation is always a good first step.
Well, thank you, Sherry. And on the NMIN side, Leah Greystone, who is our HQP and events coordinator, is also available to any of the NMIN partners or students, trainees and PDFs. If you wish to make a connection through Leah with a warm introduction to Sherry, that's perfectly acceptable as well. And we would welcome you with open arms in terms of any feedback that we can provide on the NMIN side. So with that, I'd like to thank Marshall for being a terrific technical moderator today, and especially thank our guest speaker today, Sherry Zhao, for joining us and sharing with us all the details of the NMIN-Mitacs internships and fellowship opportunities, and more about the new programs at Mitacs that are very exciting, new programs and partnerships. So please feel free to follow up with Sherry and with Leah, and have a terrific afternoon, and keep on networking and making that effort during our COVID environment. We may not see each other in person, but we're all here actively networking on a virtual platform. So thanks for joining and have a great afternoon.